All right, folks. As you can see, we are starting up with the show. We're going to be live, and I believe we are streaming now on YouTube at the No Soundbites Allowed podcast site, and also on Facebook at this moment under probably Michael Vasquez or No Soundbites Allowed. I hope everyone is having a great day, and we are going to just jump right on into this. Oops. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me. This is Michael Vasquez, Dragon of the Southern Tier. I am here with you and your host on No Soundbites Allowed. We are a long-form political commentary site, and this is commentary. I want to be able to have an interaction with you. I look forward to having you call in and speak with us about the issues I'm going to be talking about. So feel free. You can call us at 607-242-1582. You can text us at No Soundbites Allowed, or you can reach us at, you can also text us at the line, and you can also reach us on YouTube live. And even if you're reaching us after the show, we are happy to hear you, and we'll be happy to respond to any comments you may make. We're going to be going into a few things today, and I am looking forward to the chat and your comments and your thoughts, because this is interactive. I like to have a conversation with you guys. And we're going to have just that on so many things here today. So first, I want to mention two announcements. One, for those who may not have been familiar or may have seen it before, I will be speaking on Larry Sharp's program, The Sharp Way, a little bit later this month, which is the month of August 2020. I've been on Larry Sharp's program before. It was a great conversation. He's actually been on my program as well. We're two Marines from the Bronx that grew up very close neighborhoods. I always love speaking with him. We can speak for hours at a time, even though he's a libertarian and I'm a Republican. We have a great conversation. I invite you to look forward to that. We should have a date and time coming up shortly. So just so you know, that's something that's coming up. In addition, on August 11th, here in the Southern Tier in Binghamton, New York, there will be an event that will be happening at about 6 p.m. I will be speaking at that event. I'm looking forward to everyone being there. We're going to be releasing that a little bit later today. So I hope everyone's going to be able to have a chance to show up and to share their support on that. And I'll have more news about that later today or early tomorrow about that. That being said, what a week. I mean, in a year of weeks of incredible news, we continue to see incredible news day by day here at this time. And it's mind-boggling to me. And I just don't understand it. Let's start off with something real simple so that we can get all the way into all of this stuff. Let's start off with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Always a fun topic. Back on August 3rd, former President Obama came out and he endorsed over 100 Democratic candidates. And when he did that, he made a very interesting choice along the way, because he did not endorse Miss Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, which is a very telling statement, because President Obama is known, he's not some kind of wallflower, nor is he someone who isn't familiar and supportive of the far left. Matter of fact, having members of Black Lives Matter come to the White House while he was there, basically giving them legitimacy and political power and expedience when he did that. So it was very interesting to hear that he was not willing to go so far as to endorse the Socialist Democrats and to promote that within the Democratic Party. But when President Obama didn't do that, well, there was someone who did do it. And that was a gentleman, the former Binghamton lawmaker, the former city councilman by the name of Dan Livingston. Dan Livingston, who you may be familiar with, I've done some articles on him, including the first day that he got into elected office. This was back on January 10th of 2019. And immediately, from the very beginning, as soon as he got into office, he wound up breaking the law. He actually violated people's privacy rights. He broke the ethics rules of New York State for an elected official. He did, that was just, and that was, he had a history throughout his entire time in the city council of Binghamton for breaking the law. In fact, by the time he left, I had filed a request for investigation with the New York State Department of Justice, seeking to have him removed and to investigate him for several laws that he had broken. So, oops, okay, someone's trying to step into the office there. So, besides that, so here's the thing that's really interesting to me. Dan Livingston is a socialist Democrat. He's a progressive, unabashedly so. He's a supporter of Black Lives Matters and Plot and the far fringe left. And somehow, according to his comments and his statements live on air on WMBF, he stated that he had tried to be a delegate for Bernie Sanders. And somehow, this delegate for Bernie Sanders, this socialist Democrat, was selected by the Democratic Party of Broome County to be a delegate in the statewide conference. And when he did that, and he showed up there, which he did not even know he was up for, because that means someone appointed him, no one knows who, but someone appointed him to this position. And he, of course, being a good, loyal Democratic Socialist, went out and he said, hey, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez should be our representative in the state of New York to the Democratic Party for deciding who's going to be president. And that was crazy. And the Democratic Party lost their minds. Now, my thing is, one, how does a socialist, a self-declared, very public socialist, get appointed to the Democratic Party's statewide committee? And then, of course, why is anyone surprised when that happens? In fact, let's also remember, what happened is not only did he go in and nominate Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, he also wound up pissing off the Democratic State Committee, which means for Democrats, and this is important for Democrats in the southern tier of New York, that means that the punishment for his actions are going to be put upon the Democrats in the county. Do not be surprised when legislation, funding, do not come to the southern tier of New York. Don't be surprised if taxes go up, regulations go up for this region as a consequence of this, especially in a state that is run by the single party, the Democratic Party, where no one else has any ability to stop this. If you think Cuomo makes different rules and regulations every day, and he does, under the abilities of COVID, can you imagine what he's going to do to someone who decided to break with the party line? It's going to be dangerous. And speaking of the city council, it's the same city council, the same Democratic Socialists that wound up supporting and justifying the attack of an elderly man. And I want to bring this up because Dan Livingston, like Angela Riley, Councilwoman Angela Riley, they support standing up there and saying that, Plot is a great thing, that Plot is something, and Black Lives Matter is something that we all have to submit to. She also said that as one of her constituents, a 68-year-old man, as shown in the picture, was allegedly attacked by a gentleman, which was caught on videotape. And Angela Riley, the Democratic Socialist, the supporter of Plot that she is, goes out and says, hey, it's okay. Do you know that right now, this is what happened? This is what they support. And I want you to be very clear about this so you understand what's going on, because this isn't just happening in the southern tier of New York. It's not happening just in New York. I want you to understand. Taylor Thomas is one of the individuals who helps run Black Lives Matters and Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow in the Southern Tier. And he sent out this tweet. Here is the message. It's on Twitter. You can look it up for yourself, from John Solak, who is the target and victim of this. And he goes, Taylor Thomas says that he accuses someone of being a racist without any fact, without any proof. That is his opinion. He goes on with his opinion that an arrogant and that he's targeting. He's saying someone is an arrogant and disgusting individual, and that you prey on black people and live off of lawsuits. Now, this sounds very much like Black Lives Matters, an organization that regularly raises money off of the poor decisions and negative outcomes of black people in the region. That's what they do. John Solak is someone who's actually been an advocate of good government and has taken on Democrats, Republicans, everyone. So, sorry about that. And he goes that if you come anywhere near me, a gentleman who does public events, if you come anywhere near me or any event that I put together, which is Black Lives Matter or Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow, I promise you won't show up to another event. Let's go full stop. Where are the Democrats? The very same socialist Democrats. I'm talking about Dan Livingston. I'm talking about Councilwoman Angela Riley. I'm talking about Councilwoman Viva Friedman. I'm talking about John Burns, Councilman John Burns. I'm talking about Assemblywoman Donald Lapardo. I'm talking about County Executive Jason Garnar. Where are the Democrats saying this is unacceptable? This is a published, documented threat to someone's life. This is intimidation. In the state of New York, that is actually defined as menacing, I believe, in the second or first degree. It is a crime, which says nothing about the internet crimes that this could be, which go under cyberbullying. This is a threat on someone's well-being. This is intimidation from a political or quasi-political leader, because I know Plot and BLM are secret organizations, and we don't know who their members are. We don't know who is in charge or what their goals are, but we do know that they are willing to accuse people of being a racist for no reason other than they don't agree with them, and they are more than willing to threaten violence. Gee. And this is happening in the southern tier of New York. Across this nation, most people probably have never heard of Binghamton, New York. Many people think New York State, especially upstate New York, is just New York City. Guess what? It's not. And if you haven't even heard of this place, imagine what's happening in your hometown. Imagine what's happening in your area. Well, you don't have to imagine, because I can tell you a little bit about this. And remember, folks, this is a conversation. You can type in your comments. You can chat away. You can send me a call in and tell me if you think I'm wrong, if you think I'm right, if I missed something here. But I'm just trying to get through a bunch of things as an overview here. Like I said, this is long-form political commentary. And you will be able to see all of the links for everything I'm talking about in the description on YouTube. But what is the result of all of this? The result of all of this is that Nevada is coming out, like several other states, and saying that racism is a public health crisis. Now, you should be troubled by that. You should be very, very troubled by that. Because what they call racist is not this statement by Taylor Thomas, apparently in this email, which I have no reason to believe is not true and correct. The fact that you call someone a racist without any provocation, the fact that you can threaten someone with harm, physical harm or worse, and be a member of Black Lives Matters and Plot, that insulates you. Because you're a member of Plot, because you're a member of BLM, Black Lives Matter, you can threaten someone with physical harm and intimidation because they don't have the same political beliefs as you. But for me or anyone else who says that's not justice, that there is a problem here and that is wrong, that's a public health crisis because I am being racist for saying I oppose this, that I don't agree with the socialist democratic objectives, and I don't agree with socialism, and I don't believe that people should be elevated merely because of their gender and identity. You don't get to be more important because you're black or Latino or a woman or gay or trans. That doesn't make you more important and have more rights than someone who is not. But they are calling this in Nevada and many other states and many cities a public health crisis. People like who disagree with this idea, with this socialism, well, they have to be corrected. Matter of fact, there's a course at Binghamton University. I did cover that in a prior podcast. Binghamton University has sent out documents to the incoming freshman class, training them to be socially justice aware, and that they are going to have follow-up classes, otherwise known as indoctrination, to make sure that this public health crisis of racism is well administered, so that if you have the wrong ideas, you can be corrected. This is dangerous, people. This is insanely dangerous. And it's dangerous because, not only because of what it is, but let's think about this. There was, on August 4th, hearings in the Senate on the protests, and more importantly, the violence that changed protests into criminal acts, into riots. There was a speech, a committee meeting with Senator Ted Cruz. And what did the Democrats do at that event? Which you can go to C-SPAN, as I have it here in front of you, on the hearing on the protests and the violence of the protests. The Democrats got up and walked out. They don't want to acknowledge that people like Talon Thomas, as I have shown you, that people like this exist. Democrat Party doesn't want to admit that there is violence going on in the name of the Democratic Party, which BLM and Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow, they may be the fringe left, but they are Democrats. Even though they're progressives, they are part of the Democratic Party. And on behalf of the Democratic Party, gaining more power, that's the goal, they are unwilling to accept and to even hear about the violence that's happening in cities like Seattle, like Portland, like Atlanta, like Indianapolis, where children are being killed. 16, 19, 8-year-old children are being killed. 24-year-old mothers are being killed in the name of Black Lives Matter. 68-year-old men are being attacked because they're white. Not because they did anything wrong, not because there was any violence. They're just attacking them because they're white, which is racism by definition. Because if someone who is white attacked a black man because he's black and he happened to be 68, there would be national outrage. People would be losing their minds. But when a 68-year-old man is attacked because he happens to be white and all he's doing is filming a public event, well, people like Councilwoman Angela Riley justifies it and says, well, that's your fault. You shouldn't be taping. How dare you disagree with BLM? How dare you disagree with plot? And then we get people like Jerry Nadler who comes up and he goes, hey, it's not even true. This is all one big myth. Did you hear that? Did you hear about that on July 27th? That Jerry Nadler says there is no Antifa violence. It doesn't happen. It didn't happen last year or the year before that. No, that's not true. That's just a Republican myth. That's an ideology. It doesn't happen because Democrats are peaceful. Kind of like Talon Thomas with Black Lives Matters and Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow. They're innocent. So innocent that they were burning Bibles in Portland on August 1st. Burning Bibles. Herschel Walker, I believe it was Herschel Walker, the former football star, made comment about that. and was outraged. Because, that's the kind of thing that there's a certain type of people made famous throughout the world for burning Bibles and burning books. And I don't need to mention that, otherwise this will be banned on Facebook, YouTube, and everywhere. But I guarantee you, they're not known as peaceful Democrats, although they were National Socialists too, just like the Democratic Socialists or Socialist Democrats of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Yes, all of this ties together, folks. So, not only that, but we see, according to Newsweek, just in case the other source was not important enough for you, and I know people like Bob Joseph at WNBF have a question with certain sources. Okay, Jerry Nadler, guess what? If you opened up your eyes and look at the news, reported today by Newsweek, Portland protesters tear down protective barrier outside Portland police station and set a fire. Guess what? The title is wrong. That's not a protest. They set a fire. They destroyed property and they set a fire. That's not a protest. That is a riot. That is a criminal action. You know what the crime is? Arson. Besides breaking and entering, it's arson. These are crimes. Stop calling them protesters. They're not protesting. If they were protesting, I would stand here alongside them and go, well, I wouldn't stand alongside them, but I'd say, absolutely, let them go out there and say anything that they want. You think people have heard me say this several times. If you think Rocky Road is better than vanilla ice cream and you want to have a protest, go for it. I don't care. If you like the color blue more than you like the color red, you want to have a protest, go for it. I don't care. That's your choice. That is your right as an American. And if you have other people who decide that they want to do it with you, fantastic. The moment that you set a fire and you break property, you destroy other people's stuff, when you commit violence, guess what? That's a crime. That's no longer a protest. Just like Talon Thomas, you can't tell people that they can't go to a public event and threaten them with violence for showing up at your public event. Whether they agree with you or not, it is your right to be able to have a public event, to peaceably assemble. That is our constitutional right, to peaceably assemble. Threatening people with violence and intimidation and promising to harm people, that is not peace. And guess what? Neither is setting fire to a police station. You may want to defund, which means disband the police. You may be like Bob Wessler, and you support the idea, legislator Bob Wessler, who supports the idea to defund and disband the police, to remove the police department. If you believe that, fantastic. That is your right. You can believe that the world is such a Pollyanna place that people are going to be unicorns and rainbows, and if you get rid of the police, everyone will be safe. That's the promise from socialists. That is the promise from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and others. She believes that, you know what, they set a fire to the Portland police station because, you know what, they're looking for bread. Guess what? I don't think there's a whole lot of bread in the police station. If she were right and protests could become riots because people are hungry, they wouldn't be breaking into Chanel on 5th Avenue and stealing furs and perfume. They wouldn't be setting fire to a police station if they were hungry. That's not the reality. And you don't threaten people, and I keep coming back to this, but I'm going to keep coming back to Talon Thomas, to BLM, to Plot, and I'm basing this on being a true and real document, which I have no reason to believe it is not. You don't go around threatening people because you don't agree. You don't get to burn down a police station because someone else says, I don't agree with defunding the police. I am saying I do not agree with defunding the police. I do not agree with disbanding the police. You want to improve the police? Fantastic. Let's have that conversation. You tell me you want to defund the police because you think that it's better I will point to the fact that rioters are setting fires in police stations. They actually took prisoner, because that's what it is, the Seattle Chaz, the Seattle Chop, whatever you want to call it. They took prisoners of American citizens, which is treasonous. They killed children. In Indianapolis, they killed the mom, a 24-year-old mom, Jessica Dottie Whitaker, for saying all lives matters. Guess what? I do not agree with that. I do not support that. And I do not want to create an environment where we have less police officers so these people can be even more violent, especially as they're trying to take away our Second Amendment rights to protect ourselves from this kind of violence everywhere. And you're asking me, well, Mike, what kind of violence could it possibly be? By the way, folks, I'm just laying out, I've done a lot of research today. I want to lay this all out. I also want to hear your comments. I want to hear your feedback on all of this because this is not just me, it's all of us. And you can call in to 607-242-1582 or send in your text on YouTube and Facebook. Okay, so what kind of violence are we talking about? I mean, it's everything. This is Andy Nago, a credible news reporter who has followed many things, in particular Antifa, that, the very same group that Jerry Nadler says does not exist. Well, Jerry Nadler, open up your eyes. Democrats, people who are watching CNN, open up your eyes. On August 7th, a woman who does not agree with defunding the police, that's her big crime. She does not agree with defunding the police. And I want you to see something here, okay? Look at what they're doing. Let me roll this back. Look at them. They're pouring paint on an older woman standing by herself because she doesn't agree with them. You know what? I'll even say this. I'll even go this far. Let's say that you do not agree. Let's say that this woman, this elderly woman, is a racist. Let's say that she's a racist. Does that give you the right to physically attack her, to throw paint on her, to go up and assault her, to intimidate her? Because guess what? If you're one of the people out there and you are saying, and I would love for any Democratic Socialist or progressive to call in and say, yes, Mike, that was perfectly fine. She's a racist, so we can do that. Guess what? If you say that that is okay, we can do that to you and worse. Because I guarantee you're a racist, depending on how I want to define it. Depending on how we want to define it, you're a racist, a sexist, a homophobe. You can be all kinds of things. You can think wrong. You're a bad person. Everyone in the world can be defined that way if someone plays with the words enough and if they just have enough people backing them up with a mob mentality. So if you think that's good for her, it's going to happen to you too. And do you think you deserve that for saying that you believe whatever it is you believe? Because I guarantee you, if the woman there was saying, I believe in trans rights, and someone poured paint on her, the left would lose its mind as it should. If she was there saying, I believe in gay marriage, and someone threw paint on her, the left would lose their minds as they should. But at the same time, the left should be losing its mind because this woman, standing by herself, unarmed, using nothing more than the power of her voice, the First Amendment, the very same right that people around her are abusing, and she's speaking her mind, and she gets attacked with paint, which means that is no longer a protest. That is a crime. That is a criminal act. And that criminal act does not justify what happened. I know that people will disagree with me. People like Dan Livingston, people like Councilwoman Angela Riley, people like Talon Thomas, people like Jerry Nadler are all going to line up and say, Mike, you just don't get it. I do get it. You don't have a right to be violent because you don't like what I have to say. No one does. That's not what the Constitution says. But you know what? You may say, Mike, well, it's okay. You do have that right. You know what? Maybe a person doesn't have that right, but obviously the state has that right. As long as it's the right person in charge of the state. Not like Orange Man Bad, not like President Trump. He doesn't have the right to decide things for the public. But someone like a mayor or a governor, they would have the right to do that. Well, here's Los Angeles. The city of Los Angeles is willing to go out and they will turn off your water and your power to punish you for gathering in your home. For having people in your home, they will turn off your water and power. You know what that is? That's called punishment. That is punishing someone without any crime. So it is a lack of due process, and it is criminal penalty for doing what you constitutionally have a right to do, to be free. If I have 5 or 6 people over from my family, from not my kids, but say my uncles, my aunts, my grandmother, they want to come over to my house for whatever reason it may be. My brothers and sisters bring their kids over. We have 6, 7 people in my house, or 10 people in my house. If that's what we choose as free Americans to do so, and you have no idea what's happening in that house. We may be social distancing, we may be wearing masks, you have no idea. You just know that they came to my home. And if they do, and someone turns around and says, hey, government, go out there, Mayor Eric Garcetti, 10 people just walked into that house. Let me go turn off their water and power, their essential requirements for living. You need water as a requirement for the essential living for human beings. And even if you're an animal rights lover, if I happen to have a single pet, sorry, I'm just checking things. Even if I have a single pet, guess what? Then you turning off the water and power is, if you don't value humans and you're PETA, guess what? You do value animals. And you can't do that. That is illegal. That is expressly unconstitutional. That is expressly a crime against humanity. That is expressly forbidden in the United States. And Eric Garcetti should be removed from office instantly for even suggesting this kind of power. But in a world where we have people like, where we have COVID-19 and we have Democratic governors and such that are removing people their ability to even travel and move, we shouldn't be surprised. In a world where we have California admit that there's 100,000 botched mail-in ballots, and we have Democrats saying that that we must use mail-in ballots, even though 100,000 proof. People say, oh, there's no way that this is all wrong. Proof. I don't know. Meanwhile, we see that, as much as we have people like Black Lives Matter saying, hey, we're going to commit violence because you disagree. Most black people in America, over 80% of Americans believe that they want to have, 61% of black people in America, according to the poll, said that they want more police, or at least the same amount, that they believe police are necessary for their safety. I tell you, I don't know. And all of this is happening while we have Democrats saying, in another violation of our regulations, in another violation of the rules and the way that the laws are done in our nation, we have other people who are going out there and saying, hey, you know what? Let's get a presidential debates. Did anyone ever say to President Obama, guess what? President Obama, we're going to get rid of all the debates. President Obama doesn't get to speak. If you had said that, you would have said, oh, well, that's racist. You would have said that's a crime against humanity. That's not how America is. The American people deserve to hear what's going on in these people. There are important issues that need to be spoken about. Why did that suddenly change? Because Joe Biden became the candidate. Because no one wants to talk about the fact that he has 7 sexual assault cases against him. because he constantly says that black people have no agency, they have no independence, that they cannot make a decision for themselves, that he has made the decision for them when he's decided that black people must vote black or else. And even more recently, when he decided to say, hey, you know what? His words, and I'm going to quote this, I want to put this on the screen, coming from Politico. Unlike the African American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly diverse attitudes about different things. Now, this is Joe Biden, the man who has been on record for saying that you can't own a 7-Eleven without being Indian, that you can't be a cab driver without being from the country of India. He has said that if you are not black, well, you cannot, if you vote, if you don't vote Democrat, then you are not black. As he said to the Breakfast Club and Charlemagne the God, you're not black if you don't vote Democrat. You don't have a choice. And to be voting not as a Democrat, well, that's just, you can't do that. You're a black person. You don't have a choice. And this very same man is saying, hey, you know what? The Latino community, they're diverse. They have minds. They have the ability to make up their minds and to make choices based on information that is in front of them. They're incredibly diverse. And the key words here, incredibly diverse attitudes about different things. That's what he said in the quote, as I have just shown you. And this is how stupid Joe Biden thinks black people are. His response yesterday. Earlier today, I made some comments about diversity in the African American and Latino communities. Yes, he did. That I want to clarify. This should be interesting from a man who cannot speak a sentence without losing his mind. He says, in no way did I mean to suggest the African American community is a monolith. Not by identity, not on issues, not at all. Actually, yeah, Joe Biden, you did say that they're a monolith. You said there is no diversity, overwhelmingly, in the black community. Those were your words. You said that black people cannot be black if they are not voting Democrat. You said that black people are one homogenous, singular mind bunch of zombies. And just like when Talon Thomas says that, you can't oppose Black Lives Matters and their political agenda, because it is a political agenda they are put forward, you know what? Joe Biden is doing the same thing. He's putting forward his political agenda and saying that black people are zombies and that they have no choice. Joe Biden then later on in the day came out and said, hey, you know what? No, you misunderstood. I was talking about geography, because Spanish people, well, they're from everywhere in the world. They're from all kinds of different places. They have different cultures. They are diverse geographically. Okay, Joe Biden, time for a lesson. Black people are from everywhere in the world, too. They're from the continent of Africa, which is not a country. It's made up of 27 other countries, and it is bigger than the United States, the continent. And black people are diverse there. People from Egypt are not like people from South Africa, who are not like people from Chad or people from Liberia. They're all different. Morocco is not like, anywhere. Zimbabwe. They're all different people. So and that's just on one continent. Let's go to the black people in London, in Jamaica, the Aboriginal people down in Australia, people of color throughout the world. There are black people in Japan, in China, in Russia. There are black people who are, Herman Cain, Ben Carson, myself, Candace Owens, how many different types of black people are across the world speaking every language and their own languages? Multiple dozens of languages. So to say that black people are not geographically diverse, you're an idiot, Joe Biden. Quite definitely. That is a illogical statement. It doesn't work. You can't excuse what you said because you're saying, well, Spanish people are more diverse than black people. That's not true. And you can't say that it's, you're not calling them monoliths, black people monoliths, when you have literally said that they are not an incredibly diverse community. That's what you said. And you said this isn't about geography because you said it's an incredibly diverse attitudes. It's about attitudes. You're talking about mindsets. You're talking about thinking. You're saying that black people are zombies. How are black people voting for this man? I do not understand it. I do not understand it. It does not make sense to me. It's so it just blows my mind. I'm sorry, I'm getting messages directly to me. It threw me off for a second. But this is blowing my mind. How can you be black and how can you go with this? I know how you can do it because someone like Talon Thomas is saying that, allegedly, is stating that they're going to be violent against you, that they are going to harm you if you decide to have an independent thought. And people like Councilwoman Angela Riley will back them up and justify the violence that is being done against you because they all happen to be progressive Democrats. And if you're not, well, then you have a problem and they need to take care of you. Just like they're going to do in Nevada, because it is a public health crisis. When you disagree with Joe Biden and Black Lives Matters and plot and elected officials, guess what? You are a health hazard because you are a racist and they're going to do stuff to you. I don't know. Meanwhile, I know I'm monologuing today. Normally the show's a lot more interactive. I'm monologuing a bit, but I hope people are following me here. I think this is all very important, and you're not hearing about this overwhelmingly in the major media. Oh, hang on. Oh, that came off a little loud. Hey there. This is Michael Vasquez, Dragon of Southern Tier on No Soundbites Allowed. Who am I speaking with?
This is Jason.
Hey, Jason. What's going on, man?
Yeah, I just don't want you monologuing forever.
I don't mind. I still got, another 5-10 minutes of material, but go ahead.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff this week. I mean, it's kind of getting to a point where all of this is just continuing to compile week after week the same story over and over again. But one thing I did like, I was going to mention a couple of things you mentioned before, where you're really connecting the far left, and you're asking, you're starting to ask them, like these Dan Livingstons or even all the Democrats in the party, to say, do you actually agree with these violent individuals who are silencing or purposely trying to silence the right from even having a voice and an opinion? And I think that's a huge point, So when Bob Wessler, he goes out there and he starts, grabbing infographics, from Plot, then they have to ask the question, is like, so you are taking their messaging. Do you agree with all their messaging? And so, they really do. They need to be pressed more on where they stand in the position. Do they agree with the fear and intimidation?
Let me mention something, Jason.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have, and I want you to go on, but I do want to mention, I have gone on and I have requested that WMBF, Bob Joseph, on his show, where all the politicians in the Southern Tier do appear. I have asked him directly to ask these politicians this question. I have asked it on Twitter of every elected official and every candidate. I have asked Bob Wessler, my opponent, I am in an election. I have asked Bob Wessler to publicly, twice now, in press releases and on social media, I have asked for him to make a comment. Other people have asked this. Every single one of them declined to comment on this. They are hiding from the public. Some of them, like Bob Wessler, have literally shut down their public pages so that the public cannot know what they think or what they believe. And that is troubling to me. It is dangerous. And I disagree with that completely. So I just wanted to clarify that. Yeah, they have been asked. Yeah, they have been asked, but they have declined, and the public has allowed them, or the media has allowed them, to not answer.
Yeah, it's 100%. And this again, to separate, I don't want to seem like an individual who's biased, have some sort of bias or some sort of unreasonable demand for having these individuals speak out. But the fact is, though, is that there is specific text and there's, works that state exactly about these individuals, and then to basically you educate them to go out in the field and to silence voices, and then you use them as your thugs and your weapons. And so if it wasn't for the fact of these different books that are out there, like the Rules of Radicals and some of these other things with the critical race theory and all this stuff, or the simple fact that the entire sociology major at Bank University, breeds these individuals and justifies this radical, thug behavior of silencing speech, then, I would, wouldn't be, I suppose it's critical. But the thing is that they're using these individuals as weapons to get themselves reelected. And all they do is basically they send these thugs out and they basically go hide in their hole and then have them do all the damage. And they just pray to God that, the Republicans and the conservatives don't actually connect them and press them, every single day. And, sometimes it works. Other times it doesn't, so.
You know what scares me, Jason?
Yeah.
Right now, we know there's been polls that are out. Somewhere around 60% of America are afraid to make comments on everything I've just spoken about. Most people feel that they cannot, because if they speak out, they will be labeled a racist, a sexist, a homophobe, and that they are going to be ostracized. That people who are liberals, 52% of them believe that it's okay to fire someone because they have a different political opinion than the person, if they learn what your political opinion is, and it's different than theirs. This is what we've seen. This is a poll that came out from, I believe it was YouGov. I covered it 2 weeks ago. Now, when we take that into consideration and we add that into the fact that we're seeing threats, violence, menacing, intimidation, we're seeing property damage and burning down buildings, even as some politicians are actively saying it doesn't exist. I tell you, this is about as dangerous as it gets, I believe, in my opinion. This is one of the most dangerous times in America when we see random violence going on, when we see elderly people, women, and older men being attacked and having paint poured on them. And most people don't get to see this news because the news media doesn't want to tell you that an older woman, unarmed, is having paint poured on her because someone didn't like her opinion. Oh my God, are we in a dangerous place in this country? And we need to speak out about it.
Yeah, we do. And, the thing is that this incremental way of basically bashing, one of the things that I hate is this appeasement, or not even an appeasement, just kind of like almost an acknowledgement of saying, well, you're kind of right. It's just like, okay, they're burning down things and rioting. And then all of a sudden the conversation and the appeasement is happening. Like, they're just like, well, let's just, talk about some racial incidents that happened with some really bad police and just say that they were bad. And meanwhile, it's just like they're getting in their way of nearly disbanding police or spending money on things that are just completely worthless, like, implicit bias training. And, it's just like these certain Republicans and even, or anybody, who is white, a lot of the individuals I've seen, I mean, they're scared to shit. I mean, they literally are doing
Well,
whatever they can
let's
just
watch
to,
the language.
get out of the spotlight.
Yeah, let's watch the language for a moment. It's all right. That's all right. I know we get very excited, but that's
Sorry.
But I go live and I don't edit, so this isn't on a delay, so I just want to mention that. And you know what? No, that's okay. And because it's upsetting. This is very upsetting stuff. And you know, I'm looking at this, and let's put it in a different way. Like I said with my example before, let's say that I'm out there and I'm advocating for, I don't know, gay marriage. Let's say I'm advocating for trans rights. Let's say I'm advocating for women getting a higher income. Let's say that's what I'm out there saying. If someone came up and assaulted me, that's wrong. How is it different when it's the other way around? Just because you don't agree with what someone says, which is their right, you don't have to agree with them, but that doesn't mean you get to assault them. Do I get the right to go over to, it's in New York State, Dan Livingston. He's a socialist Democrat. Are the Democrats, the Democrat Party, the state committee, are they authorized now to go out and beat up Dan Livingston, to punish him and Broome County because he did something they didn't agree with in advocating for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? Am I justified in going out, or is anyone justified? And according to this Democrat ideology, since Angela Riley justified violence against one man because he had a different idea, does someone have justified to have violence against her? Of course not. If we are being human beings, if we are being Americans, no, it never justifies any of that. And we need to speak about this, because if we don't, if we defund the police, then we turn our city into Portland, which has been in the middle of riots, not protests, riots, every night for over 70 nights in a row. 70 nights. I don't know how, a lot of this stuff that I'm talking to people about, you don't get to hear that. I spent 8 hours a day checking out the news, and this terrifies me that this is not more well known. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. The things I've been talking about today, tell me, do you think you've heard about them so far?
I wanted to mention the Dan Livingston situation because I really have been kind of,
Go right ahead.
racking my brain over that.
Sure.
And I think it's interesting because I think that it's one of those things with the delegate system, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that delegate system is ridiculous. I mean, there is nothing more.
Republicans have it too. To be fair, Republicans have delegates as well. You have state committee members and delegates.
Yeah, but
I don't want it to seem like, oh, well, it's just one party doing that. They all do. Now, the difference is, if you're a Republican and you have a delegate, you have been elected. You have been selected for that, and you know about it ahead of time. Dan Livingston was appointed by someone mysteriously 24 hours before the event.
Yeah.
Who and why is that? That's an abuse of power, I think. And I would love to hear Bridget Kane, the chairwoman of the Democratic Party, to explain how it's not and what else is going on. But she won't. And by the way, for people who didn't know, when I say that, some people like Bob Wessler are hiding from the public, this is what I mean. This is his page right now on Facebook, live as we're speaking. And this is his page. He has hidden all of his opinions. He has hidden everything that he believes in, so that you can't see, so it won't affect the election. He won't tell his constituents what's going on. And that's sad. But I just wanted to bring that up. Go on, Jason. I'm sorry.
Well, part of it was almost like we knew what happened with Bernie Sanders, last time with Hillary Clinton and the situation with the super delegates. And somehow I almost feel that this situation here was purposely set up in a way to kind of, throw some backlash in that, I'm not sure if you've seen it that way.
Yeah. I'm not sure. This whole process is troubling to me. You know, we're watching so much of an agenda out there, and we're watching people like Biden, who's very confused, running around and changing his opinion and his words almost daily. Even as we have other Democrats taking from his lead, where he's, for the most part, in a basement somewhere because of COVID. And so he's not even around. He's got some of the least time in the public eye for any presidential candidate in my lifetime over 5 decades. And we have other candidates who are taking that lead and saying, well, I can't speak to anyone because of COVID, even though there's a format like this. It's called social media. And instead of being honest with people, they're using things like the violence of BLM and plot, Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow, to intimidate people. This road goes to a bad place. When politicians are walking out of meetings because they don't want to hear the truth, when they deny the truth, a truth that is reported by credible news media daily for 70 days in a row, when there are physical proof of violence and intimidation, you know, I have to believe that our nation is going into a very dark place. That's my thought about that. You know, yeah, they're adopting Bernie Sanders because, you know, people like Talon Thomas and Angela Riley and Dan Livingston, they're very vocal and they're afraid of standing up and speaking against them because of the words, you are a racist, you are a sexist, you're a homophobe, you're a ism or an ist. And when they say that, they expect you to shut up. Well, no, I will not be silent. No, I will not be cowed into submission. I will speak up. This program is here for you to speak up. And even if you don't agree, that's perfectly fine. But that doesn't make anyone evil just because they don't agree with the views of an elitist, small splinter group. Needs to be said publicly. And I'm more than happy to do it. Sorry. I'm somewhat, you know, I'm a little hyper today. Go on, Jason, please.
Yeah. I just wanted to make another comment there with, Dan Livingston. And just, I remember one of the comments that he made. He was saying, too, that he's like, he says, well, Republicans are so against, Governor Cuomo. I'm surprised that more people wouldn't, be supporting what I did, to try to put pressure on him. And, I think about where he stands and what he was trying to do. And, I mean, you're looking at certain principles, I suppose, or policies even, when you have a full-out Marxist, which I can't say that, Andrew Cuomo hasn't been using, a Marxist communist type of authoritarian, way of governing with this pandemic. But there has been times where even he has had to turn around and go, look, guys, we can't tax the rich anymore because we're not going to have a tax base and there will not be, a New York State government. And yet, them, on the other hand, these Marxists, they're like, well, we're fine with that. We want to bankrupt the damn thing so we can take control of everything. And so to some degree, I see that Dan Livingston almost wants the Republicans to wipe out any sort of, policy that will restrict, these, or that will prevent the Marxists from taking over the entire state.
Well, there's a few things that we can do. One, we can be very public and share things like I am right now on the screen, which is so people will be educated and aware. And that is the Telegraph put out, notice this comes from an English newspaper because the current U.S. media doesn't want to address this, but Governor Cuomo begs wealthy New Yorkers to come home to save the ailing city, published August 4th. It came out from England talking about the New York State economy, and the American media pretty much ignored this, that New York State is going bankrupt, $60 billion. And in particular, we see that in Broome County, according to County Executive Jason Garnar and his mismanagement of it, that Broome County on September 1st will be bankrupt. They will have zero funds. This is what happens when you tax the rich and you force people to leave the state because of your regulations and your hate. And I do say that that is hate. I also want to bring in, we got a comment from Tina DeBella, who says, so what are we supposed to do to get people to listen to facts, especially when the facts are being censored and blocked by the media and especially social media? You have the, she goes on to say, the mainstream media saying that the right is making Portland up and it is not really a problem. How can anyone believe this crap and be so naive? So let me address both of those things. Actually, before I do that, what are your thoughts about that, Jason? And then I'm going to let you go just in case someone else wants to call in.
No, that's okay. You can just, finish up. I'll just,
I'm glad you called in, and I thank you for your insight. This is part of the show. It's your insight and your thoughts and expansion, because what's happening in the local community, it's not just in the Southern Tier. As I keep showing, it's everywhere. And if we're not addressing this, then, it's crazy what's allowed to happen. So I thank you for helping share these thoughts.
Yep, no problem.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jason.
Yep, have a good one. Bye.
And folks, that was Jason in Bing. He's a regular caller. You can be a regular caller too on the program. Just call 607-242-1582. And as you see with Tina and many others, you can type in on YouTube, Facebook, and make your comments known as well. So Tina, what do you do? And it's a great question. How do I let people know things like something I wanted to bring up? Teen Vogue, as an example, that housing is now a right. These are the same people who told our teens that sleeping is a right, that black people should have a right to sleep. And we should change laws, create laws to allow black people to sleep more because they have reparations. And now they're coming out and saying, hey, under Eric McGregor, I believe, Candace Mallet wrote this on July 15th, that evictions are coming, even though they have been stopped and that wasn't true in July. It's not true today either, especially with the executive orders by President Trump yesterday. Not true. And we need to treat housing as a right. Notice, whenever it's in the left, it's a right. How do we address this? Well, it's real simple. When someone says, oh my God, housing is a right. We have a right to housing. Great. I understand that's what you think. Please do me a favor. I want to learn. Educate me. Where is that written in the Constitution? Where is that written in New York state law? Or whatever state you happen to be in? Where is that said that that is a right? You know what they're going to do? They're going to stop and they're going to look at you. And they're going to go, what do you mean? You said it's a right. Okay. Where is it a right? I have the right to life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness, the happiness clause. I know that. Not the success, not the guarantee, but it doesn't say anything about, ooh, I'm guaranteed this, that this is an absolute right. I have a right to live. How I live is up to me. It's up to my choices, my actions, my failures, or my successes. It has nothing to do with the government. The government doesn't get to choose that I will succeed today or fail tomorrow. It doesn't get to do that. So we need to educate people. And the best way to educate them is to say, okay, I'm very interested in this. Teach me. Let me learn. Where is that proof? Where is that written? Oh, it's not written. Oh, okay, so it's your opinion. This is how you feel. That's great. I'm glad you have a feeling. Maybe you can go and talk to your your elected officials and make that a law, but that's your feeling. And my feeling is, no, it's not. Oh, what do you mean? You can't have that feeling. Why can't I have that feeling? Where is there a law that says I can't have that feeling? You have a feeling, I have a feeling. Why is your feeling more right and more important than mine? Again, this is a conversation we have with people who disagree with us. And we get to learn. They get to put their input and say, okay, well, my feeling is more important than your feeling because what? I know there are certain socialists out there, like Talon Thomas, who would say their feelings are more important than other people's feelings because of the color of skin. I reject that. But if they want to go with that kind of logic, let's go with that logic. If feelings are based on skin color, then my feelings should supersede the white members of BLM, the white members of Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow, which are about 60 to 80% of their members, and therefore they should listen to me and do what I say because I'm a black Hispanic, two minorities, not just one. Oh, well, no, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't, so it's not about skin color. So what is it about? Well, you have to be, on the right side of things. I do. What is that? Who determines that? Who makes that decision? Again, this is a conversation. And when people have to actually think about what they're doing and not just some headline, but they have to actually think about it, no, they may not change their mind that day. No, they may do what's happened to me on a regular basis on Facebook. They may block me. They may delete the comment, but it's still in their head. They still have to think, and it's in the back of their head at all this time going, why am I thinking that? Why am I doing that? Am I just a member of the herd? Am I like what Joe Biden said, that I don't have a choice, that because of my skin color, because of my gender, because of my sexual preference, because I have a preference of a political party, that I have no choice, that I am a mindless zombie drone? Is that what I really am? And when people have to ask those questions and they have to think about that, then they're going to suddenly go, oh, something's wrong here. And the default response is, oh my God, I'm going to run away, which happens a lot. I have people do that all the time. Don't be afraid to allow people to go, I'm going to unfriend you on Facebook. I'm just going to delete you. I'm going to block you. I can't stand listening. That's okay. Because guess what? That means you realized your argument failed. It is an emotional one and not a logical one. And eventually, emotions change, logic prevails. And if we keep doing that, people will learn. Now, I'm not telling you that they're going to change their mind. I'm not trying to change people's mind. I'm trying to make them aware. You can believe whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. You can vote for whomever or whatever you wish. What I am saying, though, is be aware of the consequences of what you are doing and what it means, because most people are not. And that is a big, big difference. When the news media, and you're right, Tina, the news media is very adamant about not sharing things like what we see with Andy Ngo. And he has hundreds of tweets, of video clips, of articles. You know where he gets a lot of this? A lot of it comes from other people who happen to get that video, and they send it over to him, and he verifies it and he presents it. I do the same thing. People will tell me about things in every party. I have members of ANTIFA, of Plot, of the Democratic Party, socialists. I have libertarians, conservatives, Republicans, conservative Republicans, that all send me information from time to time, that send me video clips, that send me that they have originally taken of different news stories that I can't keep up with on everything. And I spend a lot of time doing it, but I can't see everything. And then I do my research to make sure it's verifiable, or as best as I can to verify it. And then I can get to present it and say, hey, why aren't we talking about this? I'm not going to forget that Jerry Nadler is willing to deny the truth and hide from the public, actively hide from the public, the reality of people like Talon Thomas, if this is a correct and true document, which I have no reason to believe is not, where they are willing to aggressively intimidate and attack and physically threaten people, or that when people have actually physically done that in Plot and ANTIFA, and I'm going to speak about that. And I'm going to let people know about Anti-Nego so that they can follow that for themselves and that they can judge whether it's okay to pour paint on a person for merely speaking their mind. You know, this is how we do it. We actually show them the proof. We show them the facts. We show them the articles. You know, I understand that, you know, that's something that Ted Cruz was trying to do in the Senate. And the Democrats in the Senate, like Senator Hirono out of Hawaii, made the choice of saying, oh, I'm going to get up and I'm going to walk away. I'm just not going to hear this. I'm not going to listen. Just like, you know, Representative Jerry Nadler. This isn't true. I'm not going to listen to that. I'm sorry. When you don't listen, you're complicit. You are part of the problem when you don't listen. You don't have to agree. No one's saying you have to agree. I'm not like Joe Biden. I'm not saying that you have to agree. I'm not saying that you have to be monolithic. I'm not saying that you can't be diverse. I'm saying that you have to be aware. Because if you're not aware, then politicians get away with doing things like this. And I'm picking on my political opponent at the moment. Yes, I am. In a race that I am in for the legislature of Broome County. Yes, I am. But I want to make a point here. The choice is someone like myself who is speaking to the public, who is reaching out, even with COVID-19 preventing me from being in person. I am reaching out to people, and in the alternative is my opponent who is saying, hey, you can't see anything. I'm not going to speak to you. I'm going to show you a picture of a car. That's all he's going to do. I'm going to show you a picture of someone's meme. But he's not actually going to tell you where does he stand on defunding the police. He's not going to tell you how he's going to help County Executive Jason Garnar get Broome County out of the financial crisis of bankruptcy that is imminent in about 21 days. Guess what? You're being elected to be able to fix problems, to try and resolve issues for the benefit of the public. And if you're out there just saying, hey, here's a picture, I'm running. By the way, my friend Angela Riley, who advocates for elderly people being beaten up by members of Plot, and would probably, and I don't know this for a fact, but probably would agree with with rioters pouring paint on elderly people who disagree. Yeah, he's probably, and if he's not willing to comment and say, these are the people who are asking for money for me, because I'm not even willing to put that up here. He's barely willing to say that he's running in an election. You know what? That's the choice. And if we do not highlight this, because the local media is not talking about it, because the national media is not talking about it, we need to talk about it. One of the biggest lies that has ever been said to the public, besides your vote doesn't count, which is a lie, is that we can't talk about politics. You can't talk about politics in a bar. You can't talk about politics at Thanksgiving or at dinner. No, you have a choice. Please, you have a choice. You don't have to do that. I'm not saying that that's required for you to do. But what I am saying is you can have a conversation. We're not required to just blindly follow our leaders, which they're not. They're elected officials. That means they're subordinate to us. But we're not blindly required to just follow what they say, to accept things as they say it. And we are more than able, by law and by constitution, to say, hey, I disagree. Maybe I have a better idea. You know, Biden he's just a regular guy. He's a regular 76-year-old man. Does that mean that he is brilliant? No, he is not. Does that mean that he's an idiot? Well, no, I don't think he's an idiot. I do think he has mental issues. I think he's possibly suffering from dementia. And I think he says things that he doesn't even understand. When he says that black people are zombies, and I am paraphrasing, When he says that black people are zombies, he doesn't understand what the meaning of that is. What he does understand is, well, black people better vote for me, period. And I am taking them for granted. Hispanics I have to work at. This is what he's saying in this. When he's saying that Latinos are diverse and black people aren't, he's saying black people are zombies and Latinos, well, I got to work for their vote. I have to do something for them. So he's taking black people for granted and Latinos not. And he doesn't realize that when people like myself and others hear that, they go, oh my God, that is both insulting and wrong. And Tina, the answer is show people this. And say, what do you think that means? Do you think this is about where someone was born? Do you think he's talking about whether someone was born in Puerto Rico or Spain or Texas? Or do you think he's talking about you and me and people? That black people aren't different. They're all the same. Which is inherently racist, don't you think? And if you ask them that and show them that, whether or not the national, well, CNN didn't say that. You don't have to listen to CNN. These are his words, direct, from a credible news source. What do you think? Forget about, we know it's a credible news source. Throw that out the window. That's not a question. Whether it was on CNN or not, it's credible. What do you think of that? What the important thing is, what does it mean to you? Do you think he's calling black people zombies? Is he saying that black people aren't worth working hard for and Latinos are? And if you disagree with me on this, you can. Because the answer could be, no, I don't think that's what he's saying. Okay, that's fine. I disagree. But at least now you have a question. Follow him. See if he says something else like that. You know, kind of like if you ain't black, if you don't vote Democrat, you ain't black. Maybe he's going to say a history of things that should be concerning for you, if that's an issue that's important for you. That's how I address it. So it's a very, very long, hey, it is long form political commentary, folks. But this is a way I want you to be aware, and I'm incorporating everything that I was researching for you today into that answer. And I hope it was interesting, or at least entertaining, and hopefully informative as well. I don't know. You know, I'm listening to people like earlier today, I just before I came on at about 2:00 this afternoon, I had a conversation with someone on Facebook. The result of which was that they turned around and they blocked me. And the reason why is that woman read this headline. Pelosi calls Trump's coronavirus relief executive actions absurdly unconstitutional, which is what Chandlis Duster of CNN said. Now, this is what she said. And that's what the woman said. This is ridiculous. President Trump can't give out money. He can't just make funds and give them out to the public. That's unconstitutional. You know, Nancy Pelosi said so. Well, yeah, that's true. Except here's a problem with that. And let me be very clear about it. Why is Nancy Pelosi wrong? Why is it not unconstitutional? Well, if you actually read the executive order, which I will include the link so that you can read it for yourself, President Trump isn't creating money. It's true. Only Congress can create money and spend that money. The president, though, can reallocate federal funds. There are $150 billion of federal money that's going out to the states that he is redirecting to be able to pay people $400 a week for unemployment until December 6th, until the money runs out. That's legal. It's constitutional. He has that right. He isn't creating money. He's reallocating money that's already been spent by Congress, money that's already been sent out. He's changing the restrictions on it to help the public. But she couldn't hear that. All she heard was, well, Trump is spending money. No, no. He's changing where the money's winding up. He's changing it from going from one thing to another thing. Under the restrictions of law, he's moving some of the money around. She's like, but he's an evil man. I'm like, I don't care if you think he's an evil man. It doesn't matter if you think someone is good or bad, if they have not actually physically harmed you. What the question is when we're talking about government is, can they do what they're doing? You know, I was upset with County Executive Jason Garnar in my region in the height of, back in April of this year. County Executive Jason Garnar came out with Operation Crush COVID. It was his idea to make people safe by making people prisoners in their home. He decided in an official press conference to say that people could only come out of their home every other day. That is punishment for a crime that doesn't exist. No one did any crimes. And he decided, out of his pure opinion, that the way to make people safe is to punish people and to imprison them in their homes every other day. When we say, oh, well, if you oppose this, you oppose COVID, therefore you're evil, you misunderstood what's going on, and you misunderstood the scope and the problem. It's not that you're not evil because you say, I don't want to be punished for being in my home. That doesn't mean I'm going to run out and start coughing on people and breathing on them without a mask on because I want them to catch COVID. It's not the same thing. And if we don't realize that difference, then they go from doing things like you're a prisoner in your home because of an emergency. Well, actually, we go from flatten the curve, which means the same number of people are going to be affected, just not all at once. And we go from flattening the curve, which we have done, to until people are healthy, which is impossible. There'll always be someone affected. So there will always be this extra power of government, which includes locking you in your home every other day. It includes taking away your money, taking away your freedom and your rights and your ability to live your life. That should terrify a lot of people. And one of the things she was upset about, and one of the other things she mentioned is, well, I'm upset because Trump, not only is he taking money that he doesn't have the right to give, which she was wrong about, she goes, and he didn't send us another stimulus check. Well, wait a minute. If you're upset that President Trump is sending out money that she wrongly thought was not in his powers to do, why do you expect him to send you even more money? Why is he going to send you a stimulus check if he can't legally do that? Why are you asking for it? Well, she didn't want to answer that because it didn't make any sense. If he's not legally able to pay $400 a week, which she's wrong about, if he's not legally able to do that, why is he going to send you a check for $1,200? As we understand, and as she had said herself, only Congress can do that. Then why are you asking the president to do it? Why are you holding it against the president when he doesn't do it? You're mixing up your emotions here. You're not thinking straight because it's wrong. Yes, the president can reallocate federal funds, and no, he cannot send out a check to every American for $1,200. You can't hold him as a bad guy, orange man bad, because of both things. You can't do that. That's not called logic. That's not having a real reason. That's having a bunch of emotions, and you're trying to justify it, which is fine. If you want to justify it for yourself, that's fine. If you want to believe that, that's fine. But don't be under the illusion that you're correct, that this is factual. Make your decisions with full understanding of both the consequences and the reason. If you're acting emotionally, be aware it's all emotion. And it doesn't make any sense. And that's okay. You don't have to. It's America. You can call into the show right now, 607-242-1582. You can type like Tina has, either on YouTube or on Facebook, and say, Mike, I absolutely disagree with everything you've just said. I think none of those sources, whether Newsweek, BBC, we're going to Twitter, none of it's true. It's all wrong. I think you're an evil, well, if you're going to call me an evil racist, you better have some facts. If you're going to tell me that I'm a sexist, you better have some facts. And I'll give you a chance. If you want to come on and say, Michael, I think you're a racist, go right ahead. But you better have a proof. Because if you don't, and you're just telling me your feelings, you're going to hear a dial tone real quick. Because I want to hear your opinions. I want you to tell me what you think. And if you disagree, we need to hear that. Maybe you have a reason that I don't understand or I have yet to see that makes sense. And if so, don't I and the rest of the world deserve to know it? Joe Biden says today, Joe Biden's been saying, I have the answer to the economy. I can fix the economy. I can help make better, financially stable and better. I can fix and help people with COVID. Okay, that's fantastic. And you've had this answer for how long? Why didn't you do it over the last 40, 50 years that you were in elected office? 40 years, elected office. Joe Biden's been around forever. Why didn't he he's talking about BLM and social justice. Fantastic. You've been in an elected office. You've been a senator for decades. Why didn't you do it then? Hang on. You had the first black president, or half black, whatever, President Obama. You were his vice president. You could initiate and put out almost any law you wanted in the first year, in 2009, with a supermajority. You know personally hundreds of these politicians who have been in office alongside you for decades. Why didn't you change the law? Why didn't you get rid of the racism then? If you have these answers, why didn't you do it? Especially when you had a supermajority and could do anything under the sun that you wanted to do. Or maybe you're just playing with people's emotions to get them to vote for you, and it's completely dishonest. Tina has contacted us again. She says, the problem is they are now making regulations and state orders based on emotion. I feel like we are in a bad dream. No, that's a nightmare. We are in a nightmare because they are making laws based on emotion. Look no further than to Governor Cuomo. Governor Andrew Cuomo, very much like Governor Newsom in California, Governor Whitmer, Mayor Elliott Garcetti, Mayor de Blasio in New York City. What are we seeing? These people are making it up as they go. Hey, you know what? You can go into phase 2. Nope, sorry, you're not going to phase 2 now. Why? We changed my mind. Oh, we may have to get rid of things because, we may have to go backwards in phases and close some things down. Why? Well, I don't feel like it. Why should we open up bars and restaurants, but we can't open up a gym? Why? Well, I don't think it's safe. But is there any proof of that? No. Do you have any evidence of that? No. Is there any science about that? No. I think only 50 people can come out to a rally. No, excuse me. Only 50 people can show up, and you can't go to church. But you can have thousands of people at a protest, because a protest, somehow COVID is able to understand political preferences, and it won't affect anyone at a protest, and very specifically a Democrat protest, a progressive protest. It won't go to affect anyone as long as you're there for BLM, because somehow the virus understands that. But if you show up at church, you go to Walmart, you go to a restaurant, well, COVID's going to come right after you. What? And if I happen to be in a restaurant and I order a beer, or I'm at a bar and I order a beer, well, COVID's going to come right after me, because the beer attracts COVID apparently. But if I have food, if I have a hot dog with that beer, well, COVID is now repelled because food with beer equals immune. Does any of this make any sense? No, because it's not supposed to make sense. It's about fear. It's about following orders. It's about, as Joe Biden said, being a zombie, following orders without question. It's like the woman I spoke to on Facebook. It's about having emotion and not thinking about it and not paying attention to anything except the headlines. That's why I do long-form political commentary, because we have to look beyond the headline. We have to ask more of a question. It's not enough to say, well, Cuomo said, you can't open the bar unless you have food. And I am forced to order food with the beer because COVID somehow knows the difference. That is stupid. On Governor Cuomo's part, that is stupid, especially since that regulation does not exist. I've read the alcohol beverage code for New York State. It does not exist. That's just his emotion and him abusing the power of being able to be emperor of New York because of this emergency that is costing the lives of about 1.7% of the population with a 99% survival rate. Doesn't mean we can't take care of people. Doesn't mean we can't protect people. But it does mean, in my opinion, that no, he doesn't get to have unlimited power. He's not Emperor Palpatine. This isn't Star Wars. All right, folks, I've been on for an hour and a half. And I know people have been on and off. I hope people have enjoyed this. I hope that if you have enjoyed this, or at least even parts of it, that you make a comment. You can comment after the show on Facebook, on YouTube. You can send us a tweet or a link. Some people even call, and that's okay. And we look forward to that. If you think I was completely wrong and you made it this far into the program, thank you. Thank you very much for at least hearing what I have to say, even if you completely disagreed with it, even if you're never going to see the show again. I thank you because you made it this far. If you did like the show and you please consider taking a chance to just subscribe and see over 1,000 episodes of our content. We appreciate that. In addition, on Tuesday, the 11th, there will be an event at 6 p.m. It will be on the courthouse steps here in Binghamton, New York, and I will be speaking. I'll have more news about that later today. And also, I will be coming on to the show for Larry Sharp, The Sharp Way. You can check out his program, Libertarian program. We've spoken before, and I'm going to be on as a guest, and I'll be having the date and time for that coming up very soon. Folks, it's an hour and a half. My voice is a little tired. I thank you for joining me today on Sunday, and I hope every one of you are going to be well. I look forward to seeing your comments to tell me whatever it is you think, because you matter, your voice matters, and America is better when we speak. I thank you. I hope you have a great day.